My name is Annie Collins. I'm 29, a senior marketing manager who knows how to build a mood board, schedule an email blast to hit when people are most lonely, and make a conference room smell faintly like lemons and momentum. I live in a one-bedroom apartment that looks bigger at night and smaller in the morning. Until yesterday, I shared it, with love and a little strategic denial, with my boyfriend, Peter Hale, 31, an architect who sketches like he's rehearsing for praise he hasn't earned yet. If you asked me last week what our life felt like, I would have said good. Not perfect, not storybook, good. We had our rituals. He stacked his dress shirts by gradient, ocean to cloud. I folded the throw blanket the way his mother taught him, edges tucked in so it looks like a gift you haven't opened yet. He'd call me Collins when he wanted to tease me out of a sulk. I'd tap his wrist twice when he started explaining things I already understood. Our fights were quiet, civilized little duets, the kind that end with a handshake and a half smile. You could mistake that for harmony if you weren't listening for the note that doesn't resolve. The note showed up on a Thursday afternoon with a brochure glossy enough to see my face wavering on the cover. Leadership Summit, Peter said, dropping a kiss on my temple like punctuation. My firm picked me, 3 hours away, Friday to Sunday, professional development, networking, probably too much golf. The brochure featured a conference center that wanted to be a resort when it grew up. Sweeping lawn, spa fonts, men in polos holding conversations with their posture. He flipped through pages with an enthusiasm that felt curated. Breakout sessions, he said. Keynotes. He smiled without showing his teeth. I'll be busy, but I'll text you. Of course, I said, because that is what the supportive girlfriend says, even when the back of her neck prickles like someone's just opened a window behind her. We packed together after dinner, which made the apartment feel like two hands clapping. He rolled socks into neat, disciplined walnuts. I tucked a small lint roller into a side pocket, the way I always do. You should bring the navy, I said, palming the collar of a blazer that made him look like he'd win arguments, and apologize beautifully afterward. Navy's the safe choice, Darrow, he said, but he put it in the suitcase anyway. He checked the time casually, too casually, and then checked it again. I should try to get an early start in the morning. They want us there by noon. They, I echoed, like a mirror. He didn't notice the echo. There are some tiny mysteries that don't feel worth solving. The sock that disappears between washer and dryer. The sudden desire for cilantro even though you used to hate it. The way someone you love gets excited about a trip that doesn't include you. You can call it growth. You can call it maturity. You can call it trust. Sometimes it's just you refusing to tug a thread because you're afraid of what it's attached to. He showered. I wiped the counter, a ritual that soothes me far more than meditation ever did. The kitchen smelled like lemon dish soap and sautéed garlic, intimate and ordinary. My phone buzzed. Dana, you alive? Or are you knee-deep in spreadsheets and a boy? I smiled. Dana is my colleague and my oldest friend. She collects the truth the way other people collect frequent flyer miles. I snapped her a picture of Peter's suitcase, half-zipped, and typed, "He's off to a leadership thing. Solo. I'll be fine. Maybe I'll learn what silence sounds like." She sent back a gif of someone side-eyeing fate. Careful what you wish for, babe. Call if your brain starts narrating. Peter came out of the shower damp and handsome, smelling like cedar soap and ambition. He touched my waist with that absent-minded gratitude people get when they forget they're being loved. You okay? I'm always okay, I said, and it sounded exactly like a lie and exactly like the truth. We went to bed early and spent an hour not sleeping. That's the thing about last nights. You don't know they're last nights until later, when you retell them to yourself with italics. He was sweet. He was present. He was somewhere else. In the morning, the hallway light was still gray when he wheeled his suitcase to the door. He kissed me once, twice, 3 times for luck, and I breathed him in like I was trying to memorize. Text when you get there, I said, holding his gaze long enough to feel like we were signing something. Promise, he said. The elevator pinged, the door closed like a quiet verdict. The apartment expanded after he left, like it had been holding its stomach in. The open space of it made me a little dizzy. I washed the mugs and lined them on the rack like short soldiers. I watered the pothos, which has refused to die despite years of benign neglect. I changed the sheets, because I always change the sheets when I need to change the subject. The silence was devotional at first. Then it began to hum, a low electrical doubt under the floorboards. At 11, a text. On the road. Reception might be spotty. Will call tonight. The punctuation was friendly. The words sat there like guests you didn't invite. I tried to stay on schedule. I'd taken the afternoon off under the self-care pretense. I did some laundry. I answered an email labeled "Gentle Reminder" from someone who has never been gentle. I ate leftover pasta standing at the counter, fork tapping the bowl with the small insistence of a woodpecker. I looked through the brochure again. The smiling men on page 4 were different from the smiling men on page 9 by only the number of their polo stripes. There was a spa photo, steam rising, a woman with cucumber slices over her eyes, a caption that read, "Find stillness between sessions." I caught my reflection in the gloss. I didn't look still. At 2, I almost texted him something light. Do keynote speakers know they're keynote speakers in real life? But I didn't want to be clingy, the word that women are trained to avoid like a food allergy. At 3, I convinced myself the ache behind my sternum was just caffeine and not dread. At 4, I cleaned out the junk drawer, which felt like a personality test I was failing. At 5, I called my mother, who told me about the neighbor's remodel for 20 straight minutes, each granite countertop described like a moral judgment. By 6, the light went honey-colored, the way the city pretends it's kind. I made a list for Saturday. Buy dish soap, run 5 kilometers by the river, finally fix the wobbly dining chair. Peter keeps promising to fix. I put the list on the fridge with the magnet from St. Augustine, a trip we took last spring when we were still in the era of "we should come back here," and believed it. At 7, I took a bath with eucalyptus salts I'd been saving for when I felt like a person who takes baths. I lay there and thought about the first time Peter and I went to dinner with his coworkers, the way he introduced me. "This is Annie, she's the quiet one who hears everything," and how Grace was there that night, laughing from the end of the table, fingers tapping a rhythm on her wine glass, like she knew the song before it started. I filed the memory away back then as harmless, a little brittle, a little bright. I file it differently now. At 8:30, my phone buzzed again. Made it. Early session in the morning. We'll call tomorrow? The question mark was what got me. He never asked to call tomorrow. He called. The hum got louder. I texted back a thumbs up and a heart, because I'm not an animal. Then I set the phone face down and pretended I hadn't noticed the reflex move, how my hand wanted to flip it back over before the screen even went dim. I slept on his side of the bed to see if it helped. It didn't. The pillow smelled like his shampoo and the ghost of old arguments. Tiny, unfixable things, like who forgot to charge the toothbrush, or why his phone lived face down on the coffee table on nights when he said he was too tired to think. I counted the cars passing below, the intervals becoming a metronome for a song I didn't want to learn. I dreamed I was in a hotel hallway that repeated itself every 6 doors, every carpet pattern looping back to the same stain. When I woke up, the room felt like it had slid an inch to the left. Saturday made itself known with a gray sky and a neighbor dragging a suitcase down the stairs like a reluctant dog. I laced my shoes and ran by the river, the air cold enough to make my lungs negotiate. I did 5 kilometers, then 6, then I kept going because the only way to outrun a thought is to run into a new one. It didn't work. I came home flushed and righteous and completely unchanged. By noon, I needed a reason to be a person among people. I texted Marcus, who does delivery runs on weekends to pay down his student loans because we're all protagonists in late capitalism whether we like it or not. "Want a passenger?" I asked. "I'll buy the gas station coffee." He replied fast. "Could kiss you right now." "My sister just called. Our mom slipped, heading to ER. I'm mid-route. Could you finish my last drop? Address is close to you. I'll owe you forever." Yes spilled out of me before I thought about it. The relief of doing something useful, of stepping into someone else's urgency, felt like a blessing disguised as a favor. He sent the order info and the address. New high-rise downtown. Name on the order, A. Monroe. Monroe. The name rang like a distant bell, but the city is full of Monroes. I tied my hair back, grabbed my keys and the insulated bag, and told myself that doing a kindness was the same thing as having control. On my way out, I glanced at Peter's shaving cream on the bathroom shelf, the cap not quite clicked shut. The kind of small open thing you notice only when you're looking for bigger open things and trying not to find them. The elevator mirrored me in all directions as the doors slid closed. I looked composed. I looked like someone who'd chosen an errand over an obsession. The doors opened on the lobby. A burst of cold air met me like a dare. The city was bright and indifferent. I merged into its indifference and let it take me where it wanted. By the time I reached downtown, the sky had turned the color of old tin. The city always looks different when you're not in a hurry. It's less like a skyline and more like a collection of half-finished lies. Marcus's car still smelled faintly of fast food and car freshener, the artificial kind that tries too hard to smell like pine. I followed the GPS through the narrow maze of one-way streets, humming under my breath to steady my nerves. The address popped up on the screen. 27th floor, Westbrook Residences. New high-rise. Reflective glass. Concierge who looked like he'd stepped straight out of a furniture catalog. He smiled, professional and blank, and pointed me toward the elevator. It was strange, stepping into a building so sterile it felt like a waiting room for people who never had to wait. I checked the name on the app again, A. Monroe, and felt that soft buzz of coincidence in the back of my head. Monroe, the name I'd heard once before. I just couldn't remember where. The elevator hummed upward. My reflection in the mirrored wall looked calm, but my pulse betrayed me, ticking quick and nervous. When the doors opened, I stepped into a hallway lined with modern art and silence. I found the apartment number, balanced the bag of takeout in my hand, and rang the doorbell. Music played faintly inside, something lazy and smooth, the kind of music people put on when they're not expecting visitors. Footsteps, a pause. The lock clicked, and then the door opened. For a second, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Grace Monroe, wearing Peter's blue button-down shirt, creased, oversized, hanging loose enough to show bare skin underneath. Her hair was tousled, lips flushed. She blinked once, twice, like her mind was buffering. Annie? My name came out of her like a question she didn't mean to ask. My fingers tightened around the paper bag. Grace. Behind her, I heard a familiar voice. A male one. Warm, low, freshly awake. Hey, babe, who's at the door? And then Peter appeared. Towel draped over his shoulders, hair damp, that same towel now darkening at the ends from the water dripping off him. His face shifted through confusion, shock, and then a flicker of guilt so fast it almost disguised itself as irritation. He froze. The hallway seemed to shrink until it was only the three of us, suspended in the moment between discovery and explosion. Grace's face twisted first, not with embarrassment, but with disdain. Oh my God, Annie! What are you doing here? Are you... She lowered her voice, eyes narrowing. Doing deliveries now? The way she said it, deliveries, like it was a disease. I'm covering for a friend, I said quietly. My voice was shaking, but my words weren't. He had an emergency. Peter stepped forward slightly, his jaw tightening. Annie, listen, this isn't what it looks like. Really? I said, gesturing to the shirt on Grace's body, the shirt I'd ironed yesterday morning. Because it looks exactly like what it looks like. Grace laughed, too high, too brittle. She's being dramatic, she said to him. She's obsessed, Peter. I told you she might do something like this. That word, obsessed, hit like a slap. Peter blinked. Grace, what the hell are you talking about? You told him I was obsessed? I asked softly. She smirked. What was I supposed to say, that my boyfriend's ex keeps showing up in my life? The air fractured. Peter's expression went pale, as if the floor beneath him had shifted and he couldn't find the edge. Ex? He repeated. Grace, what are you saying? What are you... You... I started, but the words wouldn't form. Grace's eyes darted between us, realizing too late that her script had fallen apart. Peter, just let me explain. No. His voice cracked like a bone. You said you broke up with him. You said he was... He turned toward me, his face contorting with the memory. You said she was some jealous ex-friend who wouldn't stop messaging you. I almost laughed, but it came out broken. A jealous friend. That's what I am now? Grace's veneer shattered. I didn't mean... Peter stepped back like he'd been hit. You've been lying to both of us. She reached for him, but he pulled his arm away. It was strange watching their faces crumble side by side, the liar and the believer, both suddenly aware of the same ugly truth. I trusted you, I said quietly to Peter. I defended you. I told everyone how loyal you were, how grounded. You said you were going to a leadership conference. He swallowed hard, eyes darting anywhere but mine. I was going to tell you, Annie. I didn't know how. Grace sneered. Oh, please, you weren't going to tell her anything. That's when something inside me went cold. There's a specific kind of calm that only comes after betrayal, a silence that hums louder than any scream. "You two deserve each other," I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. I looked at Grace. "You can keep the shirt. It suits you." I dropped the food bag on the marble floor. The sauce leaked, spreading like a dark bloom between us. And then I turned to Peter. "You lied to my face," I said. "You kissed me goodbye, and you lied before the door even closed." He started to reach for me. "Annie, wait." But I was already moving down the hallway. My steps echoed against the marble, too loud, too clear. Behind me, I heard Grace's voice, sharp and desperate. "What about me, Peter? You said you loved me." I didn't look back. By the time I reached the elevator, my vision blurred, not from tears, but from the pulse in my skull. The doors closed, sealing me inside the mirrored box. My reflection looked like someone I didn't know. When the elevator reached the lobby, I barely felt my legs moving. The concierge gave me a polite smile I didn't return. Outside, the wind hit my face like it wanted to wake me up. I got into the car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. My phone buzzed, Peter's name lighting up the screen. I didn't answer. I just watched it ring, once, twice, until the call ended. Then another text. "Annie, please, let me explain." I turned the phone over, screen down, and whispered to no one, "You already did." I sat there for a long time, the city moving around me. Horns, sirens, people laughing on sidewalks. All of them living in worlds that hadn't fallen apart yet. The bag of food still lay on the passenger seat, the smell of sesame and betrayal filling the car. I started the engine, and for the first time in 2 years, I didn't know where to go. The drive home felt like sleepwalking through static. Every red light lasted forever. Every green light came too soon. I don't remember parking or walking upstairs or how I managed to get the key into the lock without breaking it. When the door closed behind me, the apartment exhaled like it had been waiting for this moment, to see which one of us would come back alone. Peter's coffee mug was still on the counter, half full, lipstick of light clinging to its rim. The faint smell of his cologne hung in the air, mixed with detergent and quiet lies. I leaned against the door for a long minute, trying to locate my body inside the noise that had replaced thought. When the shaking started, I sat on the floor and let it. There's no graceful way to fall out of love when you're pushed, not when the ground has been swapped for glass. By 8 that night, something shifted. Grief gave way to precision. The same instinct that made me organize marketing campaigns kicked in. Cold and clear. This wasn't heartbreak, this was logistics. I changed the locks first. The maintenance man came within the hour, and I watched him install a new set with mechanical calm. He tried to make small talk. "Break in?" And I said yes, because the truth would have taken too long to explain. When the door clicked shut, the sound was sharper, cleaner, final. Then I opened the closet. His things waited there like artifacts. Pressed shirts, lined up shoes, the expensive cologne he used sparingly because he liked the idea of discipline. I didn't hesitate. I pulled out the black trash bags from under the sink, thick, industrial, the kind that never tear, and started packing. I didn't fold, I didn't sort, I just moved. The rhythm of it became hypnotic. Pull, stuff, tie, drag. I worked through every drawer, every shelf, every shared corner of the bathroom where his razor waited next to my mascara. By midnight, the bedroom looked like a crime scene cleaned too soon. My phone buzzed. A call. Then another. Then messages, Peter's name lighting up again and again. "Peter, Annie, please, pick up." "Peter, I can explain." "Peter, Grace is lying. It's not what you think." "Peter, I'm sorry. Please, I need to see you." I didn't reply. The more he texted, the quieter I felt. At one point, I opened his last message, "Please don't shut me out," and typed 3 words that never made it past my drafts. "You already did." By 2 a.m., the last bag was tied, 37 in total, each one heavy with the version of us I'd carried too long. The doorbell camera pinged then, a soft digital chime that made my pulse skip. He was outside. Peter stood under the hallway light, hair messy, face drawn. He tried his old key. It didn't turn. Confusion first. Then panic, then pounding. "Annie!" His voice cracked. "Annie, please open up." I sat on the couch in the dark, phone in hand, watching the live feed like a movie I'd already seen. He called again, left voicemails, knocked until his knuckles reddened. At one point, he slumped to the floor, head in his hands. The pity came and went like a ghost. After 20 minutes, I typed a single message. "Your things will be on the curb at 8 o'clock a.m. I hit send and blocked his number. Through the camera, I saw him read it. His mouth moved, something like please, but I didn't turn the sound on. By 3, he was gone. I slept for 2 hours on the couch, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like dish soap and exhaustion. When I woke, the dawn light was silver and judgmental. At 7:55 a.m., I started hauling the bags downstairs. The service elevator creaked under the weight. It took 4 trips. By 8 o'clock exactly, there they were. 37 black bags, stacked on the sidewalk like punctuation marks. The morning traffic ignored me. Even the world seemed to have moved on. At 8:09, my phone buzzed again. A new number. Unknown. I almost ignored it. Then curiosity won. Unknown, it's me. Please don't do this. I'll come by. We can talk. I deleted it. At 9 o'clock, a car pulled up. Grace stepped out first. Sunglasses, perfect hair, like she'd rehearsed heartbreak for the camera. Peter followed, his shirt wrinkled, his expression unreadable. They stood there staring at the pile of bags, like the physical proof of what they'd done had finally materialized in trash form. Grace said something I couldn't hear. Peter looked down, jaw tight, and began loading the bags into the car. I watched from my window, sipping coffee that tasted like burnt sugar. At one point, Grace slammed a bag into the trunk too hard. It tore, spilling one of Peter's shirts onto the pavement. She swore. He didn't look at her. When they were done, they drove off without glancing back. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel sad. I just felt still, like the apartment had finally chosen me. By noon, I vacuumed the floors, wiped the counters, opened all the windows. The air felt lighter. Then I did something that surprised even me. I took a long shower, changed into clean clothes, and went out for lunch alone. At the cafe, my phone buzzed one last time, Dana's text lighting up my screen. Heard something about Peter and Grace? Are you okay? I smiled, small and real, and typed back. Better than okay. Free. That evening, when the sun sank low enough to paint the walls gold, I stood by the window, wine glass in hand, watching the traffic flow below. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't wait for anyone to come home. The quiet after betrayal is not peace, it's paperwork. The kind that stacks invisibly, made of texts, whispers, and the weight of other people's versions of your story. It started 3 days later. Dana texted first. Dana, hey, random question. Did you really throw Peter's stuff on the street? People are saying things. I stared at her message until the letters blurred. Then I scrolled. There were more, from coworkers, from mutual friends, all written in the same polite alarm that people reserve for tragedy they're afraid to pick sides in. Apparently, the narrative had changed. In their version, Peter had ended things weeks ago, and I, the unstable ex, had stormed into his new girlfriend's apartment, Grace's of course, causing a scene, screaming, throwing things, then locking him out of his own home in a jealous rage. A masterpiece of fiction. Grace Monroe had always been talented at reinvention. At first, I didn't respond to anyone. Let them talk, I thought. But silence can sound a lot like guilt when your story's being rewritten without you. On Wednesday morning, my boss called me into her office, the kind tone, the concerned eyebrows. Annie, everything all right? There's been some chatter online. Online? She turned her monitor toward me. There it was, Grace's Instagram post. A photo of her holding Peter's hand across a cafe table, sunlight kissing the edges of their cups. Caption. Sometimes, healing means leaving toxicity behind. The comments were a chorus. You deserve better. So proud of you both. Ignore the jealous ones. My name wasn't mentioned, but it didn't need to be. The subtext had teeth. I smiled for my boss, told her it was personal, that I'd handle it, but inside something began to calcify. That night, I opened my laptop and went through every old message, every photo, every trace of their deceit. I built a timeline. It was all there. The weekend of the leadership conference, the fake booking receipts on my card, the Uber receipts from the same address I'd delivered to. I saved it all. Not for revenge, for the record. Then, as if the universe had decided I'd earned a breather, a text arrived. Unknown number. Hey, it's Alex. We met once at Peter's office party. Grace's coworker. I heard what's going around, and it's crap. She's been lying to everyone, including me. If you need proof, I've got texts. I stared at the message, half expecting it to evaporate. He sent screenshots, lines and lines of messages from Grace, her calling me obsessive, saying Peter had been trapped in a toxic relationship and that she'd rescued him. Her bragging about the fake conference trip. even screenshots where she'd written to Alex about how easy it was to manipulate Peter, how men like him confuse loyalty with guilt. Proof. I didn't need to read further. I thanked him, saved everything, and that night I sent a single email to our friend group. Subject: setting the record straight. For anyone who's heard rumors about me, here's the truth, in Grace's own words. I wish I'd been wrong about her. Annie. Attached, screenshots, timestamps, receipts. No explanations, no extra words, just the evidence. By the next morning, my phone lit up with apologies. Dana. Holy hell, we had no idea. Mark. Annie, I'm so sorry for believing any of that. Sophie. She's been blocked everywhere. You don't deserve this. It was almost anticlimactic, the way the tide turned. One message from me undid weeks of her performance. Grace's followers started vanishing. The sympathetic comments disappeared. Someone even tagged her under my post. So who's the liar now? But I didn't smile. Vindication isn't sweet, it's sterile. Later that week, Peter called from another number. Annie, he said, his voice low, tired. I didn't know she'd do that. She told me she was fixing things, not... Fixing, I cut in. You were part of the story she told Peter. Maybe not the author, but you signed your name on every page. I made a mistake, he whispered. No, I said softly. You made a choice. He didn't argue, just breathed into the phone like someone realizing too late that air doesn't count as an apology. After I hung up, I deleted his number for the second time. The following weekend, I walked by the river. The air was clear, the water dull and honest. A couple jogged past holding hands. A kid threw pebbles at his reflection. Somewhere, a busker sang a song about how truth comes too late to matter. I stood there and let the noise wash over me until it felt like static again. Then I went home, opened my curtains, and let the sunlight in. The plants looked greener. The apartment smaller, but mine. The silence that had haunted me finally felt like something else. Not emptiness, not aftermath, just quiet. The kind you earn. For a week, nothing happened, and that, in itself, felt suspicious. I'd grown used to the silence being delicate, like glass over calm water. Too perfect, too still. Something in me knew it wouldn't last. It was Thursday night. I was finalizing a campaign proposal for a client presentation, the kind of big account that could change my entire quarter. My laptop hummed, my coffee had gone cold, and I was just about to upload the final deck when my internet blinked out. 1 second, connection strong. Next second, dead. I rebooted the router. Nothing. Checked the cables. Nothing. My phone signal still worked, so I tethered the hotspot, but curiosity turned to dread when I called my provider. After 45 minutes on hold, a voice said calmly, "There's no outage in your area, ma'am. Your account was canceled earlier today." My grip tightened. Canceled? By who? Request came through online from an authorized user on your account. And then I remembered. The password I'd changed, the emails I'd updated, but not that one. That small, stupid account Peter and I had set up together 2 years ago. I'd left her name, Grace's name, on it when she'd lived with him, because back then I'd thought it was harmless. Now, she'd used it like a knife. I ended the call, heart pounding, with a steady, unflinching rhythm. This wasn't petty anymore. This was targeted. That night, I worked by hotspot until 2 a.m., teeth clenched, finishing my proposal while watching the data bar creep lower. I didn't sleep. I drafted an email with every screenshot, every log, and filed it away in a folder named Insurance. The next morning, another blow landed, a voicemail from an unknown number. I played it on speaker as I packed my bag for work. A man's voice, older, angry. "You should be ashamed of yourself. You humiliated my daughter, destroyed her reputation, and left her with nothing. You think this is over? You don't know who you're dealing with." Grace's father. I stared at the phone, the anger blooming so fast it almost burned clean. That evening, after my client meeting, I drove across town, not out of impulse, but purpose. I knew where she was staying. Dana had heard from a friend that Grace was crashing at her best friend Megan's apartment, the same one she'd once bragged was her backup plan. I parked outside, rain tapping the windshield like nervous fingers. My body felt calm, unnervingly so, the kind of calm that comes when you've run out of space to store rage. I walked up to the door and knocked. Megan answered first, startled, guilty, holding a mug like a prop. Grace appeared behind her, wrapped in a robe, skin pale, but eyes sharp. "Well," Grace said softly, almost smirking, "if it isn't the neighborhood stalker." The word landed like a dare. I didn't flinch. Instead, I held up my phone, hit play, and let her father's voicemail echo through the entryway. Her face drained. "Recognize the voice?" I asked. My tone stayed even, precise. "He threatened me. That's a felony," Grace stammered. He didn't mean—" I took a step closer. "And last night, my internet was mysteriously canceled the night before a major deadline. Your name is still on that account. That's tampering. That's harassment." Megan's mug trembled in her hands. "Grace, what is she talking about?" Grace blinked fast, desperate now. "She's twisting everything." "No," I said, cutting her off. "You've twisted everything long enough. I let you smear me, lie to our friends, weaponize your own father. But this, sabotaging my work, that ends tonight." Her breath hitched. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," I said, "except distance." I scrolled to my email drafts and tilted the screen toward her. "This is every message, every log, every voicemail, every time you've crossed a line. If I get one more text, one more call, or if anything of mine gets mysteriously altered again, I'm filing this with the police, including the voicemail from your father." For once, Grace looked small. The mascara on her lower lashes had smeared, and her voice broke into something almost human. "Annie, please, I made a mistake. I just didn't know what else to do." I looked at her, really looked, and saw not a villain, but a void, a woman who'd mistaken control for love and destruction for proof of power. "There's always something else to do," I said quietly. "You just never pick the thing that makes you accountable." Megan stepped back, giving me a small shaken nod, as if to say go. I turned toward the door. Grace called after me, voice thin and trembling. "Annie, wait, what about us? What about Peter?" I stopped at the threshold, rain light glinting off the edge of my phone. "There is no us," I said without turning. "And as for Peter, he'll have to learn the same thing you will." "What's that?" she whispered. I faced her one last time. "That when you burn down a person's trust, you don't get to complain about the smoke." I walked out before she could reply. The rain was colder than before, but it felt cleansing. I stood beside my car for a moment, breathing in the metallic scent of the city. Back home, the apartment greeted me with stillness, the kind that no longer hurt. I poured a glass of wine, sat by the window, and scrolled through old photos one last time. Then I selected all, pressed delete, and watched the progress bar move like a heartbeat. Outside, traffic hissed, the world turning as if nothing monumental had just ended. But for me, it had, I whispered, mostly to myself. Some endings don't explode. They dissolve quietly, like sugar in hot tea. You only realize the bitterness was never from the drink, but from the spoon that kept stirring. The wine tasted sharp and real. The apartment was mine again. And this time, the silence was peace.